All right, Weekly Sauce, episode 38. I'm always confused, Alex. Episode 38.
38.
Yeah, this episode, as usual, is brought to you by Mike's BBQ Rub. Visit Mike's BBQ Rub, MTL.com, and use Hot Sauce 10 for 10% off the entire site. I haven't said it in a while, but I feel like we're going to talk about a lot of dicks today. So I'm going to say this, that mushroom truffle sauce sucks your dick. Like, that thing is unbelievable. Eggs, pasta, ribs, steaks, mustard truffle sauce. That's the way to go. Now, since we have a fellow Greek on, maybe Mike's BBQ Rub can make like a tzatziki. I don't know. Maybe they can make something. Yeah, well, I mean, they don't make the meat, Alex, but, you know, we can do like a tzatziki sauce. I think Mike's BBQ Rub can use that, no? It's a barbecue thing. I've gone to barbecues where tzatziki was on the table. I feel like they should make one. They mastered the mustard truffle. They should make the tzatziki sauce. If they do, you can use Hot Sauce 10 for 10% off the entire site. I'm happy to have on, as usual, my colleague, my cohort, Alex. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing all good, man. What about you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm pumped. We got Josh and Lambros from Drive 425 podcast. How's it going, man? I'll start with you, Josh, since you guys don't have the same voice.
We can make that
both,
work.
Alex. We keep trying, but it doesn't work. Terry, Alex, thank you both for having us on. It's a lot of fun. Can't wait to talk. I don't even know. I just can't wait for it. I know you guys will do your usual shit, and we're just along for the ride. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Lambros, how's it going, buddy?
I mean, happy to be here as well. Thank you again for having us on. I think it was Josh. Josh sent me a quick screenshot of the outline of what's in store for today. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it might as well.
Let's just get into it. Let's just get into it. We'll get into it right away. So when we came on your show, when did we come on your show? It's probably like 4 months ago, right? It was last season.
I think it was in the summer.
Yeah,
it was back in the summer.
It was in the summer.
Yeah.
And Josh, you and I had a feisty argument about Bergie, and I was like, I'm a Bergie guy. Like, I'm sold on Bergie, and you, on the other hand, were not. Are you drinking the Kool-Aid now? Have you taken a cup of the Kool-Aid but not taken a sip yet? Like, where are you at? Because those are the only two options.
Let's just say the cup is in my hand. I don't know if I'll ever go as far as saying I'm a Bergie guy, or as I like to call them, Bergie apologists. Or people that like to dig their head in the sands and just think that everything in Montreal Canadiens land comes up rainbows and unicorns. But no, I will say this: Lambros can actually back me up on this. I hope he doesn't lie. I've said multiple times on the podcast throughout the start of this season is that I have no complaints whatsoever with Marc Bergevin, what the job he's done in the offseason, getting this team built, getting this team put together, which sometimes, I should say always feels a bit weird for me to say because I've spent 8 years bashing the man. But I mean, the other day I renamed him King Midas because everything he touched this summer turned to gold so far. I don't know if I'm fully drinking the Kool-Aid, but I've definitely taken a sip.
I love it. Lambros, what about you? Are you on? Are you in or not?
I mean, I think I'll defend Josh on this one. I think we both agreed on the idea that Bergevin was entering an offseason where he needed to hit home runs like left, right, and center. There were a lot of pieces that were promising on the team prior to free agency this past season, but you can't argue with what he's done and you can't argue with anything. Josh Anderson looks like an absolute steal and a half. A type of player that the Canadiens have been lacking for a really long time, that has the combination of the size, the goal scoring ability, and the speed. Tyler Toffoli is just a very smart hockey player. You have two guys right there who have 19 goals combined. And they're both in the top half of the goal scoring list in the NHL. So right off the bat, right there, it's like you're already doing something right. You see how I mentioned it. We did with Josh and another buddy of ours, Chris, a couple of weeks ago. We did the 3 stars of who we think are the Canadiens' 3 best players so far. One of them I put is Jake Allen. Look how much of a difference he has been through 15 games so far. He's been keeping the team in it through every single match. And last but not least, I think a guy like Joel Edmondson, regardless of what people may say about him, whether he does.
Well, he leads the league in plus minus.
It's for a guy who's, I said it to Josh, for a guy who's a stay-at-home defenseman, a plus minus is a pretty good stat to live by. Mm-hmm. Given that he's not gonna have a season like Jeff Petrie is. But on the other hand, you look at him pairing with Jeff Petrie. Look how Jeff Petrie was able to explode.
That's a good point.
So,
You
so
meant-
overall,
you
you're
mentioned-
looking at
Sorry, go finish, Lambros. Sorry.
yeah. So overall, you're looking at immense pieces that Mark Bergevin didn't even need to, replace. For years we've been talking about the Montreal Canadiens, adding by subtracting. They brought in Jonathan Drouin, but they lost Alexander Radulov. They acquired Shea
And
Weber,
Sergachev.
but they traded exactly. But they traded Piqué Subban, but they got Shea Weber. So it's not they weren't adding onto it. And this is the first time we actually saw, they're adding additional pieces that could make them a lot better, not only for this year, but potentially for years to come. And you can't, like I said, you can't see anything wrong about what he's done because everything has been a success in its own right.
You mentioned Toffoli, and we'll get all three of your takes on this. 25 goals, is that realistic? I think Toffoli 25 goals on a full season is like where his threshold is at. Right now at 10 goals, I think second or third in the league. Are we getting 25 goals out of Toffoli? I'll start with you, Alex.
I do think he'll reach it. I think he'll definitely reach 20 goals.
I hope so. He's on pace for more than that.
Yeah, obviously. If obviously he keeps up, but
He can't play Vancouver every night, though. Is the only thing. If you play Vancouver every night, you probably have 100 goals.
yeah, that's the only thing. And I do think he will. You know what? Fuck it. I'll say he'll reach 25 goals.
There you go, 25. Josh, what do you think? 25 over or under? What do you say?
I'm going over. I think he hits 30.
30, eh? You know what? 30's it's a possibility. The only thing is what I mentioned before, and Lambros, I'll get to you, is that it's like it seems like he got three goals against Vancouver. You know what I mean? Then he got another 2 the next time they played. So it's like he plays really well against Vancouver, which is fine. Play well against them. You're going to play them 9 times anyway, so play well against them every single time. I do think 25 is like the limit though. Like the over under is set at 24.5. I'll say 25. Lambros?
I'm gonna say under 24.5. I think as much like if he hits 20 in a 56 game schedule, that's already fantastic as it is. But I'm gonna be a bit realistic. I'm probably gonna say about he's probably gonna hit maybe 23. I see something like that. I'll be honest. It worries me that a lot of his goals came in against one team. It's call it what it is. And you know what? Every goal, if it leads to a win, that's what matters most. But I'm going to be realistic and say 23.
It's tough, and the team is like they've had like spurts, like individual players that played really well,
Exactly.
and I think it's been great. I mean, it's fun to watch, and like I'm excited for this season. Like ça sent la coupe, whatever. Like we're gonna say it. I know. Yes, I was waiting for a reaction from Josh. We're gonna say it because we're Habs fans, and we're diehard Habs fans, and we want them to succeed, right? So as soon as we smell it, we tweet it. That's how it works around here, Josh.
It must be so nice to live in some form of alternate reality where you can just kind of every year. But I'm sorry, it's not anything personal for you guys because it's really a bone that I've had to pick with so many of the Habs fans that I see and I interact with on Twitter is that there's no thought process behind any of it. It's whatever Marc Bergevin and Claude Julien do is there's no wrong. And you know what? Absolutely. I am cheering for the team. I think they're on pace to have a really good season. I think they could make some noise and some damage in the playoffs. But ça sent la coupe and this and that kind of crap and they're the best team in the world. They're the best team we've seen since the Canada Cup against Russia or something. And I don't know. It's like relax, guys. Like we'll talk about it later for sure. But we haven't seen vintage Carey Price yet. Will we? I don't know. The defense still lacks people. Like guys, come on. Like Ben Sherratt, I get it. Joel Edmondson, they've been great players, but let's not think that this is a top 5 defense in the league overall throughout the course of a season. There's some pieces missing. And I will say this. And I don't want to take over your show, but
No. You're the guest.
No, I appreciate that. I mentioned it at length on last week's, and you'll have to forgive me for this one, last week's Drive for 25 podcast, which is available everywhere fine podcasts are found, that I think the Canadians are in trouble when it comes to center ice depth. And not that they don't have center ice depth. It's just when you're going up against the likes of Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Mark Scheifele, and Pedersen, and Horvat, and Draisaitl, and McDavid each and every night of the season. Forget what's going on in Ottawa, because that's a complete and utter tire fire. But other than that, every time you play a team in this division, you're getting outmatched at center. So I think they're going to have a good year. I think they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. But to say that they're going all the way, I don't know. But I can't blame you for being
Excited.
overly dramatic and exciting, and it is exciting. It's fun. I'd much rather watch winning hockey than losing hockey, but can we keep it a little bit realistic?
Only my girlfriend has ever called me overly dramatic. So Josh, you're one of two people in the world. No, so I'm not. I mean, I haven't tweeted Sasan clip yet. I said it like that just to get a rise out of you, and it worked. So
I will be on the lookout for the first time.
You should. It's coming. So I won't say it until they get into the playoffs, until they at least win one series in the playoffs, which is, I think it's reasonable. Alex, you were saying something?
Yeah, I'm not sure if Josh saw it, but I did write a clickbaity kind of article. It was 3 reasons why the Habs will win the Stanley Cup in 2021, and I had so many comments on Facebook. What are you thinking? What are you this? What are you that? You're crazy. You're out of this world. I'm just thinking, oh, cool. You're clicking on the article. That's good for us.
Thanks for the click, bro.
Thanks for the click.
Dicks get clicks.
And I was laughing my ass off throughout that fucking article. But do I think they'll win? Realistically, it's hard to say yes. It's hard to say yes.
We can't say yes because they're in a division where they're not playing the best teams, right? So we have to think about that. And another reason is that they've looked good, they've looked great at times, but they've also looked Habs-esque at times, and we haven't seen vintage Carey Price, like Josh said, right? So Lambros, I wanted to ask you. You mentioned Jake Allen before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jake Allen has kind of been the savior of this team. I think that nothing against Carey Price or all of it against Carey Price. I think that I've always been a Carey Price supporter. I think that he's considered to be one of the best in the league. Sometimes he just can't bring it in, and Jake Allen has given that window for the team to be like, okay, we don't need Carey Price to steal us all the games. We got Jakey in there to hold it down while we put a couple goals in. Do you think that if by the end of the season he's able to take over the starting position?
Well, is he able to? Yes. Yeah. Will he? No.
Yeah, there's the question.
I think. I mean, I'll put it this way: we saw a vintage Carey Price moment against Toronto, on Saturday night. Mm-hmm. You know, we saw a game where the Canadians looked like absolute shit the first 2 periods, and then they decided, you know what, let's make a run at this. Carey Price kept them in the game, and limiting a team like Toronto to just a 1-0 lead going into the third period and giving his team a chance to win. That's what I always said about goaltending. And yeah, Jake Allen has proven so far this year to be overall a better goalie than Carey Price. The numbers don't lie. But I think Carey Price usually has a slow start to the season for the most part. He looks at times a little unease when it comes to his positioning, when it comes to getting adjusted and all that stuff. But the one thing, and I think it's the most important thing, that is we saw the Carey Price when he's rested in the playoffs when it matters the most. And if they're able to balance out the majority of the games, just like they've been doing so far, I'm not going to be worried about Carey Price in the playoffs. I think at the end of the day, though, Jake Allen to be the legit number one, I don't see that happening. Unless Carey Price gets hurt, unless Carey Price unless Carey Price for some reason encounters Father Time and Father Time decides to knock him out in the 5th round, I don't see that happening. I think Carey Price is still going to be the goalie that we've seen for how many years, just keeping this team in games and just being vintage Carey Price on a nightly basis.
Josh, what do you think? Since you scoffed at your colleague.
No, I absolutely. I mean, come on, guys. Is Jake Allen going to overtake Carey Price? I mean, it would have to be some sort of Carey Price would have to miraculously, for some unknown reason, retire from the NHL for him to ever lose the starting job to Jake Allen.
Yeah.
He's never going to lose a starting job over the course of his monstrous contract. But for the period of time that Jake Allen is going to be a member of the Montreal Canadiens, there is absolutely zero chance in hell, write it in stone right now, that Carey Price is going to lose his starting job. Not only people are emotional. People are reactive. Tell me about it. I know it. I'm the exact same way. And we see Carey Price struggle, and then we see Jake Allen go in and steal a game or put up decent and actually really good numbers. And people are like, well, let's put Carey Price out. Let's put Jake Allen in. No. That's not going to happen. Let's not forget the past 5 years of Carey Price saving your ass countless times because you couldn't get the puck out of your zone. You couldn't score more than one goal to win a hockey game. And he never said a word. Signed a contract extension to retire a Montreal Canadian. There is no chance in hell Carey Price is ever going to lose a starting job, and nor should he, because he is still, and I say this today, numbers might not back me up, and people are kind of against me on this one, but if you ask 32 NHL general managers with Seattle coming in, I think 31 of them take Carey Price, and the only other one is because he's gotten lucky and he has Andrei Vasilevsky.
There you go.
Other than that, that's it. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. C'est réglé.
Alex? You were gonna say something.
I was gonna say. I think if Price loses his job, there'll be more headlines than when Subban was traded. Mm-hmm. I think it will create an outrage, and people will be going crazy over Price losing his job. And Price being the franchise player, I just don't see him being benched, man.
Nah, it'll never happen.
You'll get your clicks.
You'll get your clicks, absolutely. I'll write a shit ton of blogs on Carey Price. It won't happen, and the reason why it won't happen is because we saw this with even Peter Budaj. When Peter Budaj came in and he was playing well as a backup, he's the backup. He knows his role, and I think as a backup role, you have a lot less pressure. You have a lot. It's a lot easier to dictate and to manage when you know that you're gonna have tomorrow night off. Like that night is gonna be off. So let me give it all right now. I'm good. Even if we lose, I'm just a backup. It's okay. But a backup that makes almost $4.5 million. So I think we should really take a look at that into consideration and think that maybe Carey Price might be trade bait. I mean, that could be a possibility too. But then I would be in Josh's team when I would be like, Bergevin's a fucking idiot if he trades Carey Price for Jake Allen as a starter. Anyway, I digress.
Bergevin's been an idiot on a lot of things he's done, but that's beside the point.
No, never been an idiot before. That would be the first and only time he's ever been an idiot. First and only time. I'm in it, man. I'm into the season. I think it's great. The only thing is, like I said before, the Canadian division's a little weak, and we see you can play Ottawa as many times as you want. You can play the bad Vancouver D, Toronto. I mean, as good as they are, they're still Toronto. Toronto's going to Toronto at some point, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens then. The coaching staff. So the Habs coaching staff. The way it's built is Julien kind of is there, and then the guys kind of orchestrate everything else. That's the way I see it, right, Josh? Like, it's not necessarily Julien calling all the shots here.
Well, I guess. I think it's a collaborative effort, but I think the final word comes from Julien, and I'm not going to tell you that he overrules his assistants. I think they come to the decision together as a unit, and and he takes that decision and runs with it. Mm-hmm. But I think he's still the one making the final call for sure.
Oh, for sure. Alex, I know you're according to your Twitter, you're balls deep into Josh Anderson. Balls deep.
Oh yeah,
Big Dick Josh, as we like to call him at the Hot Sauce Sports Network.
Of course.
What makes Josh Anderson's dick so big? Is my question to you,
bro. Just look at his skating ability, man. Wow, look how big he is and his skating ability. You just don't see that often, man. And it's Josh Anderson's dick is probably like my fucking wrist, my forearm.
You're scaring off the young guys here.
That's a mental image that I will just never be able to get out of my head. So I don't know. I'm gonna go to bed with nightmares tonight because that was a sight.
Or dreams, and maybe Josh is gonna be like, whoa, different man.
Josh, if you're watching this, just letting you know I'm your biggest fan.
And you're also Josh Anderson's biggest. Oh, which Josh are you talking about? We're talking about Josh DeLone, or we're talking about Josh Anderson here? What are we talking about?
Josh Anderson.
It could be very confusing when you say Big Dick Josh. It could be We don't know who you're talking about here.
Stop it! You're gonna give him an inferiority complex.
That's Joshua from now on.
Joshua, okay, yeah, Joshua. Honestly, I think that Josh Anderson signing is the best one, man. It's so far. I mean, it's been the best one.
But hold on, Terry. What's his size though? You didn't give it in inches.
I'm not going to speculate, but I feel like he's girthy. I feel like he's wider than long. I think that's what we're looking at here. A little bit like the image I have portrayed on the YouTube on the page right now, but you guys can't see it. Yeah. You'll see it when I post it later.
Like a third leg.
So the thing is that Josh. Let's move away from the dick jokes. First time I ever said that in my life. Josh Anderson, he's been on fire, and I think that he's so far he's the best signing. He's exactly what the Habs been looking for a long time, right, Lambros?
Yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. I was telling Josh. I think it was either we were on air or before or off the air one time before we prep. Josh Anderson reminds me a lot of Nathan Horton, that style of hockey player. And,
that's a fucking great comparison right there.
And when you see Claude Julien, how he had success. I'm not saying that the Montreal Canadiens resemble the 2011 Boston Bruins. I think in the slightest there are some similarities, but I think the game has evolved a little bit over the past 10 years. But when you look at the type of player, Nathan Horton was an aggressive, strong, goal-scoring power forward who resembles a lot like Josh Anderson. And Nathan Horton was a very good skater as well.
Yeah.
So, but you're starting to see, you're looking at guys like Nick Suzuki, looking at guys like Jonathan Drouin. We saw the chemistry build during the playoffs last year. You saw that chemistry, and you're seeing that okay, they have something, but something's missing. I think Joel Armia played on that line for a little bit. He's a good hockey player, but he has his limitations as well. And you're starting to see now with Josh Anderson and how he's evolving that line to be something a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more exciting, where you have three different elements on what you're putting on the ice. And when you see that work, you have the playmaking ability of Drouin, you have the two-way and the hockey IQ from Nick Suzuki, and you have the crash the net, go into the corners, and either snipe the puck or get the garbage goals type of guy in Josh Anderson. It's a recipe for success in this modern league. So when you're looking at a perfect piece, I agree with you, Terry, that this was the best signing and the best acquisition Marc Bergevin has made. I could even say in a really long time. I could say probably as far as Shea Weber, maybe.
You know what? Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. I think getting Shea Weber is the biggest thing. And we just, on the other show, Not Sauce for Work, is we had John Liu on. And John Liu told us, I asked him what the difference is between the chemistry in the locker room, like the group of guys, and is it similar to what they had in 2010 and, things like that. And he said, honestly, he's like, it's Weber. He said, it's Weber. He's the guy that, because he has such a presence and he's so good that he commands respect on the ice and off the ice. The team is rallying around him and they really respect him. And he said he's the best leader that he's seen in 14 years of covering the team, which speaks volume to we're talking about Koivu. Koivu to me is one of my favorite players of all time, and everybody talked about his leadership skills. And for him to say that about Weber, it speaks volumes to how the team is buzzing right now.
I think Marc Bergevin once said, I think it was in an interview, he's like, I want to be known as the guy who acquired Shea Weber. That's what I want my legacy to be. That I win a Stanley Cup in Montreal, but also to be the one who said I brought Shea Weber into Montreal. And there's a reason for it. So
yeah, absolutely. So
about Josh and about Josh Anderson. Josh Anderson's acquisition, at first, I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't confident. That's right, the right words. Because at first I was shocked. I thought Max Domi for Josh Anderson should be, 1-for-1, not us including a third-round pick.
Yeah,
but now, yeah, and I'm like, why did we give it the extra pick? And then he comes in first game, scores first goal, excellent presence on the ice. He hits, and like you said, Lambros, we had Armia on that line last year. But the thing with Armia is the skating ability. And what separates Josh Anderson from Armia, I believe it's the speed and skill as well. And Armia's skill, honestly, low key, he's really good.
He's a skilled player, yeah.
He's a skillful player. He just doesn't use it much.
Yeah, I
And
guess.
that's the issue. And I remember Armia was a first round pick as well.
Yeah.
So the skill is there. But back to Josh Anderson, he has something that we really missed, like you said, and that's what I really appreciate from Bergevin. He went and got something that we don't have. And like Bergevin said, there's not many Josh Andersons in the league. There's at the top of my head, there's like 5 max.
And 2 of them are the Kachuk brothers.
and the other one's like Tom Wilson.
Tom Wilson,
and then we
yeah.
have But yeah, I'm really happy with his acquisition.
Absolutely. So, Josh, you kind of laughed at the Armia Anderson comparison there.
Nah. I don't know. I mean, I'll say this, and this one's for Alex, but I've been a fan of Big Dick Josh since he came in the league. That one's for you guys. Since he came in the league with Columbus, I've compared him countless times to Tom Wilson, and you guys just mentioned it. I think he's a Tom Wilson light hockey player. I think he's got more skill in one sense when it comes to scoring goals and shooting the puck than Tom Wilson does, but the rest of the game is very much similar. And then if you ask me what was one of the biggest things that the Montreal Canadiens forward group was missing, was that prototypical big, fast, the guy can skate power forward, and a guy that's going to go and not afraid to go in the corners, hit a guy, dig for that puck, and or also a guy that can just snipe it from whatever side of the rink he's on. And I think Josh Anderson comes in and he really also allows everybody to slot in perfectly. He allows Brendan Gallagher to play Brendan Gallagher's role. He allows Jonathan Drouin to try to be Jonathan Drouin on some nights. He allows Tyler Toffoli to maybe not be the prototypical. Well, if you only sign Tyler Toffoli, well then everybody's paying attention to Tyler Toffoli. All the spotlights in Montreal are on Tyler Toffoli, and maybe he doesn't come out to that much of a hot start, and he's probably also not playing on the third line to start the season, and he's playing against lesser defensemen and lesser defensive style forwards. And so I think Josh Anderson coming in and really establishing that early chemistry with Suzuki and Drouin has built the Canadiens a real dangerous top line. Say what you will, forget Danault, Tatar, Gallagher. That's not the first line. The first line is Suzuki, Drouin, and Anderson. They are the most reliable line, night in and night out. I mean, if it were up to me, Philip Danault would be fired out of a cannon and pointed directly at the sun. But that's a whole other conversation. Josh Anderson,
Part 2.
Josh Anderson is exactly what the Montreal Canadiens were missing. And I mean, I totally agree with you, Alex. When I first saw the trade, a third-round pick, what the fuck is this? If anything, they should have given the Montreal Canadiens a third-round pick because nobody really quite knew what kind of Josh Anderson they were going to get because of the injury troubles over the past couple years in Columbus. And Max Domi, say what you will, but Max Domi, yeah, he struggled a little bit last season, but he was still coming off of a, 70-point season the year before that. That doesn't just miraculously go away. But at the end of it, now we're seeing why Marc Bergevin did not hesitate to include the third-round pick to make sure he was the one that got Josh Anderson.
And I think that was evident too. I think he fits kind of Bergevin's style, and I'm in, man. I'm sold on Anderson. Now, we saw one of our beloved players get put on waivers this week, Paul Byron. I'll start with you, Lambros. What was the reasoning behind that? What was the thought behind that? And is he coming back? Is he going to be taxi squad? We don't know what's going on there.
I think number one, we spoke about it a little bit, Josh and I, on our podcast. Corey Perry kind of played himself into the lineup. He's been playing. We look at a bargain deal, $750K at the time. We saw it as okay, good depth, just like Mikhail Furlik, good depth, quality player, good locker room guy, guys who've won Stanley Cups.
Familiar with Weber,
exactly. Listen, Corey Perry's a future Hall of Famer, as any way you want to look at it. But when you look at a guy who brings another different element to the fourth line, a guy who's not going to score every night, but early on when he started to play, he was providing numerous scoring chances. Veteran leadership. He was crashing the net on the power play. He was doing the little things that he's familiar with as he's gotten older. As for Paul Byron has struggled to begin the year. Let's call it what it is. I think that's first and foremost. Secondly, Paul Byron's role has reduced significantly due to the acquisitions that the Montreal Canadiens have done. He used to be few years ago, he was scoring 20 goals on the second line. Nowadays, he's playing sparingly fourth line minutes and then a frequent penalty kill here and there. I think what Claude Julien has done when it comes to rotating 6 or 7 players in terms of forwards on the penalty kill has kind of reduced Paul Byron's role overall in terms of his what he does on the ice. But I think overall he hasn't been playing well. I think the cap is also, his salary has been a bit of a
he's not very cap friendly, that's for sure.
Especially for his age, especially for his
Production
the last few years. Granted, last year he was injured, but will he be back? Yeah, I think he's going to be back. Marc Bergevin Claude gave him an A for a reason. You know, he still has an important role on the Montreal Canadiens. Injuries will come and go for sure as well. You never know who may get hit. But it's just like when you look at the Habs defensive depth, to have a guy like Paul Byron in your taxi squad, your team is in pretty good shape.
Good shape, yeah. Well, he's like one of the fastest skaters in the league. I mean, I have a question for you guys though.
Mm-hmm.
I put a $25 bet that Romanov is going to win the Calder Trophy. It's not looking great. Okay, it looked good like after a couple games. And I was like,
thank God it was only $25.
Seriously,
it's the biggest bet I made all year.
Probably should be the other. Throw your money away. Let me know. I'll send you my email address. You can e-transfer me.
Okay, cool. Venmo. So I mean, obviously he's not going to win the Calder. I keep on saying the Calder Cup. He might win the Calder Cup if he keeps up. You know what I mean? But he's not going to win the Calder Trophy anytime soon. What are our thoughts on Romanov? Is he Romanov or Romanov? I don't know how to pronounce his name anymore.
Romanov.
It's Romanov, eh? I'm still calling him Romanov. I don't care. It's the right way in my head. What are we thinking of him? Like, his development looks good. I mean, even though like he looks a little out of place sometimes, I think that he's shown some signs of greatness. And Josh, we'll get to you first, and we'll go to Alex.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. I actually talked to the Lambros about this exact point on the podcast last week for us. Is I would actually like to see Alex Romanov get some ice time with Shea Weber. I think Alex Romanov has played as well, if not better, on 90% of the nights he's out there than I personally was expecting, and I think a lot of reasonable people were expecting. And when I look at what the Canadiens' defensive core is missing, is they're really missing that prototypical left-handed shot, puck-moving defenseman that can transition the play, get the puck out of the zone quick, and transition it into the offensive zone. And I think Alexander Romanov can be that player for the Montreal Canadiens. And I think that's what a pairing with Shea Weber is missing. Look, no offense to Ben Chiarot, nothing against the player. I think he's a great defenseman. I think he's a great player for the Montreal Canadiens. I just don't think that a Shea Weber, Ben Chiarot pairing that are two lesser mobile guys, lesser transitioning, more defensive style players that's not going to cut it in long term for this team. So I would like to see what Alexander Romanov. I'm not saying staple him next to. Don't do what they did with Victor Mete a few years ago. Don't staple him next to him for the next 56 games of the season and say we're gonna sink or swim, kid. Have fun. No, maybe you try it out for a period. You're down in a game or something. You try it out. Coaches do this. At least good coaches should be doing this. And so I would like to see look. This is the future star, quote unquote, of the Montreal Canadiens blue line. It was supposed to be Sergachev, but now we have a third line player at the best in Jonathan Drouin. Really great move by your guy for that one. But it's if Romanov is supposed to.
The only one I disagree with, by the way. The only move I disagree with is Drouin for Sergachev.
At least you disagree with at least you disagree.
It's the worst one.
If Romanov is supposed to be that player to build around for the next generation, for the next 10 years of this team's defensive core, then I would like to see him play some bigger minutes with Shea Weber. See what that pairing looks like. And if it works, great. Then you can slide Ben Chiarot all the way down to the third pairing. You play him with Kulak and Mete whenever they rotate that stuff. He still gets his penalty kill minutes. He's still going to – Ben Chiarot's the perfect team guy. Let's not forget. Ben Chiarot was what was he? Like, he was a second or third pairing defenseman in Winnipeg. Granted, that team was deep on defense. But let's not kid ourselves into thinking that Ben Chiarot is a top pairing D. Just kind of like don't kid yourselves into thinking Brett Kulak is a second pairing defenseman. And he's not. He's at best a 6. And so, I'll finish my rant on this one and I'll bring it back to your initial question and your point is, what could we expect from think we can expect more of the same. I think he's going to get more and more comfortable. He already is pretty comfortable and ballsy at sometimes to make the plays. And I think we're going to see that keep developing. He really runs the power play quite well for a young kid.
He really does.
And I think that's just great for the Canadians. So I think expecting to see more of the same and hopefully an increased responsibility as well.
Okay, so what you're saying is I should put 50 on the Norris next year.
Maybe give it a couple of years.
All right, cool. All right, 3 years.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, Josh, I do agree Romanov deserves a better role, but what I don't want is him to be rushed.
Absolutely.
And to him being on the first pair, because knowing Montreal media and knowing how they always open their mouths about this player's played so bad this night or whatever, him being on the third line, he's like kind of sheltered, kind of.
Yep.
I think Kulak may or may not be the right partner. But him being on the third line to start off is a really good sign. Honestly, he played really well. Like you said, he's a great puck mover on the power play for his young age. I've seen people talking about Mete being with Weber again. I'm saying no.
No. Yeah.
Fuck no. No offense to Victor Mete, but he does not fit this team. If Victor Mete improves, cool. I'm glad. Like, I'm not gonna be against him. I don't have a vendetta against him, whatever. But the experiment with Weber, I think it's over. Okay, we can all agree on that. And
the Mete and Weber duo, that's over.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Romanov, I do think the move next year would be with Weber. I think he should finish this year on the third pairing, and then next year he could potentially go with Weber. Because I think next year, starting from next year, Weber's going to be on second pairing, and Chev Peters is going to take over the first pairing role. Well, I think it is right. I think it is right.
The thing is, it's kind of like 1A, 1B at this point, right? It's not necessarily.
Yeah, I think that's how it is.
Yeah. So I mean, it's tough, and it's good to know that they
Terry,
have a roster.
Terry, give me just 30 seconds to jump in on Alex there, and I totally agree with you. I don't want Romanov to get rushed. That's why I even said last season I didn't even want him in the NHL this season. Don't rush the kid. We've seen so many times a kid get rushed and it didn't work, and I totally agree with you. And that's why I don't want him stapled to Shea Weber for the remainder of the season. I'm just saying I would like to maybe see it in a third period when you're down by a couple goals, or even in just a couple shifts here and there in a game. Just see what do they look like. What is he like playing against top tier talent on the other side of the ice too? I don't want him ruined. Absolutely not, because he's the only quality defenseman we've got coming. But I totally agree with you. Don't rush him. Absolutely not. Do not rush him.
And quickly, what they said also. Well, from what I've noticed. Romanov, he tried to do too much from what I've seen him early on. He tried to do too much, and now the coaches are probably telling him, "Hey, relax, do your thing, and you're good. You don't need to impress us anymore."
Yeah, it's not necessarily that he's doing too much. It's that he was trying to play his game that he's normally played and dominated for his entire life. And they're like, take a step back, learn other aspects of the game, because you're not going to be able to do that shit around here. Like, that's just basically what they were trying to tell him.
Yeah.
Good stuff, boys. I think we covered a lot of angles here. I'm going to end it with this. We're going to end it with, give me one bold prediction. I'm going to take a little thing from you guys here. One bold prediction, Lambros. For until the end of the end of the regular season, give me one bold prediction for the Habs.
One bold prediction. Until the end of the season, the Habs are gonna make a. How can I phrase this? They're gonna make a pretty significant acquisition before the trade deadline.
All right, significant acquisition for the trade deadline. Josh, you go.
I will say that. I don't know. Is it bold? I will say. You guys tell me. Is this bold? I'll say Nick Suzuki leads the team in points at the end of the year.
So hey, you know what?
Bold?
I think it's pretty bold, knowing that we have two guys that are on pace to get over 20 goals. I think it's a bold prediction.
Yeah.
I think he can realistically finish 1, 2, or 3 in total points. Alex, what's your bold prediction?
I think we're gonna finish first in the North Division.
That's very bold.
And I have another one as well. I think. Hold on a second. I think
too hard.
Josh Anderson will finish with 25 goals as well, just like Toffoli.
So we got a double 25ers. When's the last time we had that? I don't even know. So I actually I'll give you my bold prediction. My bold prediction is that Edmondson gets more than one vote for the Norris. That's my bold prediction for real. I'm looking at it. I'm like, I see two guys out there being like, yeah, you know what, this guy deserves it.
When did you get a vote for the Norris?
I would vote for Romanov because I have money on it.
The rankings of the Norris is a rank from 1 to 10. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so he'll probably get like a 10th place vote.
Yeah, I think he gets a 10th place vote. No.
Oh yeah, that's what was my other bold prediction.
You have 3 bold predictions. How bold are you, Alex?
Jeff Petrie's winning the Norris.
Nah, that's not gonna happen.
Oh, that's not bold. He's the favorite.
He's
Come
not
on.
the favorite right now. He's not the favorite.
He should be.
He should be, yeah.
Who's the favorite?
Well,
Don't tell me Quinn Hughes.
No. I mean Quinn Hughes, yeah, because he's like he's leading defenseman in scoring.
honestly, Roman Yossi has to be in the conversation every fucking year.
Not this year.
Hedman-
Not this year though. Statistically, not this year. His team is trash and he's at a minus.
Well,
Yeah,
Quinn Hughes
that's-
too. He's like minus 16.
But he has the most points as a defenseman. That's what they look at first for some reason.
Unless your name's Eric Carlson.
Eric
Here
Carlson.
we go. Here we fucking go.
That's a debate for another day.
One at least.
At least he won one, yeah. At least that's a debate for another day. Well, boys, I appreciate you coming on. Where can they reach you, Josh?
Dude, it was a pleasure having us on. Thank you very much. You can follow me personally on Twitter at JoshuaDelorme95. Reach out to the podcast, of course. Drive for 25 podcast episodes drop on a weekly basis. We do what we can for that one. It's if you get tired of the everything comes up rainbows and unicorns and Habs land, you want some real conversation, some real hockey talk, feel free to come check it out. It's available on iTunes, Spotify, everywhere you'll find a podcast.
And before Lambros, I will agree that's what I do actually. Whenever I feel like I'm too Habs drunk, I'll listen to a Drive for 25 podcast. And Josh, you put me right back to the ground, right about the ground level, baby, 100%. Lambros, where can they find you?
They can also find me on Twitter at Lambros Sylvanas. Given my name is not Joshua Delorme, so I'll just spell it out at LAMBROSTZOVANIS. And again, for our podcast, it's pretty much just Josh ranting about everything full circle. Whether it's COVID, whether it's the Montreal Canadiens, whether you know what, it's the fucking Ottawa Senators. It's you get a little bit of everything from Josh.
I love it. Alex, is it Intern Alex or Alex the Intern on Twitter? I always forget.
The Intern Alex.
The Intern Alex on Twitter. And if you want a lot of Big Dick Josh comments, I think you can go. If you can go see Alex's Twitter, he'll send it to you privately.
Yeah, I'm the biggest Josh Anderson homer here.
You should be too.
I'm fully sold on him, and hopefully one day he comes on our show and I'll tell him how much.
Hey, here's a bold prediction. Here's a bold prediction for you. By the end of Josh Anderson's contract in Montreal, you'll have a conversation with him. That's
a bold prediction. You know what? It's a lot closer than you guys think. We'll talk about it off air. Drive for 25 podcast. Is it audio? Do you guys on YouTube or just the Spotify and Apple?
It's audio. We'll give your listeners a free little preview, a free little tidbit. Lambros and I are going to start most games when we can, convenience-wise. We're going to do a quick little 10, 15, maybe 20-minute Twitter live show.
Oh, nice.
Post-game reaction and analysis after most Habs game. That'll start, I don't know, probably next game. We'll see. And so that'll be on the Twitter, on the Drive for 25 Twitter account also.
Perfect. Look out for that. I'm Terry Tam on Twitter. Hot Sauce Sports everywhere, basically. Again, this episode is brought to you by Mike's BBQ Rub. Visit Mike's BBQ Rub, MTL.com, and get the Big Dick Josh mustard truffle tzatziki sauce for 10% off. That was Weekly Sauce, boys. Weekly Sauce episode 38. Peace.